The stars shimmered against the black canvas of space as the human colony on Proxima b went about its daily business. Farmers tended to their hydroponic gardens, miners extracted precious minerals from the rocky terrain, and children played in the artificial parks designed to remind everyone of Earth. Nobody expected visitors from beyond their star system, especially not the kind that came with weapons. The Trill Empire ships appeared without warning, massive and menacing as they descended through the atmosphere. Colony alarms blared across settlements while families rushed to safety bunkers. Commander Kim stood in the colony's control center, his face grim as he watched the tactical display showing dozens of alien vessels surrounding their home. "We have no military vessels," said his assistant. "What do we do?" Kim looked around at the frightened faces of his team. "We work with what we have." Within hours, Kim had organized the colonists into defensive units. Regular people became soldiers overnight, but they lacked proper weapons. The colony had been established for peaceful mining and agriculture, not war. "Gather everything useful," Kim ordered. "Mining lasers, construction equipment, farming tools, anything that can be modified." Park, the colony security chief with years of hunting experience back on Earth, took charge of one group. "These mining lasers can cut through rock. They can certainly cut through alien armor," she told her nervous team. She demonstrated how to modify the safety features, turning industrial tools into deadly weapons. When the first wave of Trill soldiers landed, they expected to find helpless humans cowering in fear. Instead, they walked into cleverly disguised traps. Mining explosives had been buried beneath landing zones. Farming combines had been converted into mobile barricades with sharp, spinning blades. Kitchen knives had been attached to poles to create spears. A Trill captain led his unit into what seemed like an abandoned storage facility. "These humans are primitive," he told his soldiers. "They have no proper weapons." He stepped forward and triggered a pressure plate. Instantly, a modified irrigation system sprayed the aliens with corrosive cleaning chemicals. As they stumbled backward, blinded and confused, farmers wielding electrified pitchforks emerged from hiding places. Back in his ship, the Trill commander received concerning reports. 3 landing parties had gone silent. A 4th reported being attacked by humans using what appeared to be repurposed construction equipment. The commander couldn't understand it. The intelligence reports had shown no military presence on the EI colony. "Send in the second wave," he ordered. "These are just desperate measures by frightened creatures." In another part of the colony, old Mrs. Jin had converted her kitchen into a workshop. Her hands, the same hands that had made dumplings for her grandchildren just days before, now worked quickly to modify household appliances. "This pressure cooker can become a bomb," she explained to her neighbors as they watched her work. "These kitchen timers will give us 10 seconds to clear the area." Meanwhile, Kim and a team of engineers worked to reprogram agricultural drones, turning simple farming machines into reconnaissance units and delivery systems for homemade explosives. The colony's 3D printers, normally used to create replacement parts for farming equipment, now churned out crude but functional weapons designed by anyone with an idea. A week into the invasion, the Trill had lost nearly 30% of their ground forces. Their commander stared in disbelief at the casualty reports. One unit had been taken out by farming equipment. Another had been trapped when humans collapsed a mine shaft. A third had been poisoned by modified pesticides. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They have no weapons." His science officer looked troubled. "Sir, I believe we've misunderstood these humans. They don't seem to see objects as having fixed purposes. To them, anything can become something else if needed." On the ground, the humans continued to adapt. People who had never thought about combat in their lives were now creating weapons from everyday items. Jin had organized a group of older colonists to convert cleaning robots into mobile explosive devices. Park had trained civilians to use modified tools as weapons. Even children contributed by gathering materials and setting simple traps. The Trill's third wave landed with more caution, but they still weren't prepared for what they found. Humans had modified the colony's weather control system to create localized lightning storms. They'd reprogrammed maintenance robots to attack anything with Trill biological signatures. They'd even figured out how to interfere with Trill communication systems using modified radio equipment. In his command center, Commander Kim received word that the Trill were pulling back their ground forces to regroup. He allowed himself a small smile as he looked at his makeshift army. Farmers, miners, teachers, and cooks, all armed with tools never designed for combat. They thought we were defenseless because we don't have traditional weapons, he told his tired but determined people. They don't understand that humans have been turning ordinary things into weapons since we first picked up rocks and sticks. It's not about what you have. It's about how you use it. As the Trill ships retreated to higher orbit to reconsider their strategy, the message went out to other human colonies. We've held them off. Not with guns or bombs, but with garden tools and kitchen appliances. We're still here. The Trill commander stared at the seemingly peaceful colony below, now proven to be anything but harmless. He had underestimated these humans, and it had cost him dearly. What other surprises did these resourceful creatures have waiting? For the first time, he felt something unfamiliar, doubt about the outcome of this invasion. The grand hall of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations gathered for an emergency session. Massive screens displayed footage from the human colony on Proxima b, images that had shocked even the most battle-hardened military minds in the galaxy. "Play the recording again," demanded the council leader, a tall being with silvery skin who leaned forward in his ornate chair. The screens flickered to life, showing humans in civilian clothing dismantling solar collection arrays and reassembling them into focused energy weapons. Another clip showed a young human woman repurposing communication satellites to emit sonic pulses that disabled Trill electronic systems. The most disturbing footage revealed elderly humans converting atmospheric processors into chemical delivery systems that targeted Trill biology. These modifications were made in days, not months or years, explained military advisor Lee, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts. She pointed to specific sections of the footage. No blueprints, no specialized factories, just humans looking at objects and seeing not what they are but what they could become. The representative from the Vector Collective, a species known for their advanced biological adaptations, shook his horned head in disbelief. How is this possible? They have no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no significant physical strength. Lee walked to the center of the chamber, her uniform crisp despite days without sleep. That's precisely why they're dangerous. While other species evolved specific adaptations, humans evolved to adapt their environment instead. They don't see a mining laser as just a tool for cutting rock. They see it as a potential weapon, medical device, or communication tool. The screens shifted to show Engineer Han, a stocky human with quick hands, converting terraforming equipment into makeshift artillery. Under his guidance, colonists had transformed farming machinery into mobile defense platforms that had already destroyed 3 Trill cruisers. Observe how they share knowledge, Lee continued. One human discovers a new modification, and within hours, all humans know how to replicate it. They improve upon each other's ideas without ego or hesitation. The Mariki representative, whose species had evolved powerful regenerative abilities rather than creating medicine, clicked her mandibles, nervously. Perhaps we should offer them aid. Such creativity could benefit the council. Or destroy it, countered the Gen diplomat, his eye stalks swiveling toward the displays. A species that can weaponize anything might not draw the line at diplomatic agreements. Lee displayed a new set of images. Children disassembling toys to create communication jammers, kitchen workers converting food processing units into explosive devices, and medical staff reprogramming diagnostic equipment to disrupt Trill neural patterns. What most concerns me, Lee said, lowering her voice, is that these aren't their warriors. These are farmers, teachers, engineers, and doctors. If civilian humans can create such effective defenses with limited resources, imagine what their actual military could accomplish with proper supplies. The council chamber fell silent, as each representative contemplated this uncomfortable truth. An intelligence analyst stepped forward with fresh data. We've intercepted communications indicating human military vessels are still 3 weeks from reaching Proxima b. Yet the colony continues to hold out. using increasingly sophisticated adaptations of civilian technology. On one screen, a human, named Officer Yoon, demonstrated how to convert kitchen appliances into signal jammers that confused Trill targeting systems. Another showed Teacher Sung helping children program cleaning robots to detect and report Trill movements. Their strength isn't in having the right tools, Lee explained. It's in making the right tools from whatever they have available. Most species ask, "What can I do with this weapon?" Humans ask, "How can I turn this into a weapon?" The distinction is crucial. The Galactic Council leader rose from his seat. "What do you recommend, Advisor Lee?" Lee straightened her shoulders. "We have three options: aid them directly, contain them, or observe and learn. Direct aid might create a powerful ally but could draw us into their conflict. Containment would require resources we can't spare and might push humans to see us as enemies. Observation allows us to evaluate their true capabilities without commitment." After hours of heated debate, the Council voted to send observers rather than direct aid. They still didn't fully grasp what they were witnessing, a species whose greatest weapon wasn't any device but their ability to reimagine the purpose of everything around them. As the Council session ended, Lee lingered, watching new footage of the human colony. A Trill strike force had targeted the colony's water reclamation facility, expecting to cripple human resistance. Instead, the humans had already created a backup system using modified food preservation equipment. An assistant approached Lee. "The observer ship leaves tomorrow. Do you really think humans can win against the Trill Empire without our help?" Lee's eyes never left the screen, where an elderly human was teaching younger ones how to convert garden tools into defensive weapons. "I think we're still underestimating them," she said quietly. "The Trill see improvised weapons and think desperate measures. They don't understand that adaptation isn't humanity's last resort, it's their first instinct." On the main screen, a human child picked up a broken piece of machinery, examined it thoughtfully, and began to take it apart. Lee watched with a mixture of admiration and unease. The galaxy had encountered many species throughout its history, but perhaps none that looked at the universe quite like humans did, as a place where everything, absolutely everything, contained hidden potential just waiting to be unleashed. The Trill command ship hovered above Proxima B, its metallic hull reflecting the light of the distant sun. Inside, General Voss paced the bridge, his four eyes narrowed in frustration as he reviewed the latest battle reports. 3 weeks of fighting what should have been an easy conquest, and his forces were still struggling to gain control. "Enough games," he growled to his officers. "Deploy the elite forces. I want this human resistance crushed by nightfall." On the planet below, the human colonists watched with dread as hundreds of dropships descended through the atmosphere. Unlike the previous waves, these carried the Trill's most feared soldiers, the Black Guard, warriors bred and trained specifically for combat. In the makeshift command center, Captain Choi studied the incoming ships on a display cobbled together from salvaged parts. She was no military strategist, just a ship pilot who had been visiting family when the invasion began. But over the past weeks, she had shown a remarkable talent for turning the everyday into the deadly. "They're changing tactics," she told the gathered colony leaders. "These aren't regular troops. We need to adapt faster than before." An older man with dirt-stained hands spoke up. "My farm crew converted the remaining cargo shuttles like you asked. They're ugly, but they'll fly." Choi nodded. "Good. Have your people loaded the fertilizer explosives?" "All set. Though I never thought my prized tomato feed would end up as a weapon." Around the table, other colonists reported similar progress. Medical nanites had been reprogrammed to target Trill biology. Terraforming equipment had been modified to create sinkholes and toxic gas pockets. Weather control systems could now generate localized lightning storms. "We're calling it environmental warfare," Choi explained as she unfolded a hand-drawn map. "The Trill fight with weapons. We fight with everything else." As the elite Trill forces landed, they moved with precision and confidence, expecting to find the same improvised defenses they'd been briefed on. Instead, they walked into a completely new kind of battlefield. The first squad entered what appeared to be an abandoned farm dome. Their leader, a veteran of countless battles, scanned for the usual traps. Finding none, he signaled his team forward. That's when the dome's irrigation system activated. But instead of water, it sprayed a thick cloud of modified agricultural chemicals. The particles clung to the Trill armor, where colony-grown bacteria began eating through the protective plating. Across the settlement, other elite forces faced similar surprises. Construction machinery, previously dismantled for parts, had been reassembled into mobile defense platforms. Kitchen appliances had been converted into sonic disruptors that played havoc with Trill communications. Even children's toys had been repurposed as distractions and small explosive devices. In orbit, General Voss received increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces. "What do you mean they're using weather against us?" he demanded. His second-in-command struggled to explain. "The humans have reprogrammed their climate control systems. They're creating targeted storm cells directly above our positions. 3 squads have been struck by lightning." Voss slammed his fist on the command console. "These are primitives. How are they doing this?" Back on the surface, Choi led a small team through maintenance tunnels beneath the colony. Each person carried tools that had been modified for combat. Wrenches weighted for throwing. Cutting torches adjusted to function as short-range weapons. Even vacuum cleaner parts converted into grappling hooks. "Remember," she told her nervous team, "they expect us to think like them, to use weapons designed as weapons. Our advantage is that we see the potential in everything." They emerged near a Trill command post where officers were coordinating the elite forces. While the aliens looked for human soldiers with human weapons, Choi's team deployed their secret weapon, modified medical nanites originally designed to fight cancer cells, now reprogrammed to target Trill neural pathways. As the microscopic machines did their work, Trill soldiers began to lose coordination and consciousness. No shots fired, no explosions, just silent, invisible technology that had been transformed from healer to weapon. General Moon, once a simple administrator and now the colony's defense coordinator, watched from the command center as Trill forces across the battlefield began to falter. His strategy of transforming civilian infrastructure into defensive systems was working better than anyone had hoped. "The thing about humans," he explained to a Galactic Council observer who had arrived to witness the conflict, "is that we don't just adapt our tools, we adapt ourselves." He pointed to screens showing colonists who had been bakers, teachers, and office workers just weeks ago, now skillfully operating machinery that had been farming equipment days earlier. "That woman there was a preschool teacher," Moon said. "Now she's coordinating our drone strikes using modified agricultural sprayers." The old man beside her was a retired cook. He figured out how to turn food preservatives into adhesives that disable Trill machinery. The observer, a tall being with translucent skin, watched in fascination. "Your people have no formal military training. How are you defeating elite warriors?" Moon smiled slightly. "The Trill train their soldiers to use specific weapons for specific purposes. We train ourselves to see new purposes in everything around us. That's a kind of flexibility they don't understand." By nightfall, the elite Trill forces were in retreat, their carefully planned assault thrown into chaos by weapons they couldn't predict and tactics they couldn't counter. Their rigid military doctrine, so effective against conventional forces, crumbled when faced with human ingenuity. In orbit, General Voss stared at the planet below, unable to comprehend his failure. "They're just humans," he murmured. "How can they turn everything into a weapon?" His question hung unanswered in the air as reports continued to arrive. More casualties, more equipment losses, more inexplicable defeats at the hands of a species that refused to fight by the established rules of warfare. On the planet's surface, Captain Choi gathered her tired but triumphant team. "We've pushed them back today," she said, "but tomorrow they'll try something new, so tonight we'll look around at what we have left, and we'll turn it into what we need." Around her, the colonists nodded with newfound confidence. They had discovered something about themselves in this conflict, a boundless creativity that transformed limitations into advantages. The Trill might have better weapons, but the humans had something more valuable, the ability to see potential where others saw only what was. The human cargo vessel drifted silently through space, appearing damaged and abandoned. Its hull showed scorch marks from Trill weapons, and debris floated around it like a cloud of metallic confetti. To any observer, it looked like just another casualty of the ongoing conflict, precisely as Commander Kang had planned. Inside, 20 colonists held their breath as the massive Trill battleship grew larger in their viewports. None of them had been soldiers before the invasion. There was Kang himself, once a special effects designer for entertainment productions, Technician Song, formerly a computer repair specialist, and 18 others, teachers, farmers, office workers, now transformed into something they never expected to be, boarding party commandos. "Remember," Kang whispered, though the Trill couldn't possibly hear them, "we're not fighting their way. We're fighting our way." The magnetic clamps engaged with a dull thud as their vessel was pulled into the Trill ship's waste disposal bay, exactly where they wanted to be. According to intelligence gathered from captured Trill equipment, this area was minimally guarded. Why would anyone choose to enter through a garbage processing unit? "Suits on," ordered Kang. The team donned their improvised space gear, modified Trill environment suits they'd captured and altered to fit human bodies. The breathing apparatus had been completely rebuilt using parts from the colony's water filtration system. The outer door of their ship opened, and the team moved through the sludge and waste of the disposal area. Any conventional military force would have been disgusted and demoralized. The human team saw only opportunity. "Look at all these discarded parts," whispered Song, her eyes wide behind her makeshift helmet. "This is a treasure trove." While 2 team members worked on bypassing the inner door security, others quickly gathered usable components from the refuse: broken circuitry, damaged power cells, discarded tools. Items the Trill considered trash became weapons and tools in human hands. Once inside the main ship, they split into 3 groups. Kang led the first team toward the engine room. Song took the second team to find a computer access point. The third team, led by a former high school gym teacher, headed for the life support systems. Song's team found an unmanned terminal in a maintenance corridor. She pulled out what appeared to be a child's gaming device, now rewired to interface with alien technology. 12 minutes until they detect us," she murmured as her fingers flew across both devices. Back on the colony, she had spent her days fixing broken communication equipment. Now she was hacking into a warship's systems, using skills that had once seemed mundane. In the engine room, Kang's team encountered their first Trill guards. There were 4 of them, heavily armed and armored. The humans carried no conventional weapons, just tools and repurposed items gathered from around the colony and the garbage bay. Kang nodded to a woman who had been a chemistry teacher. She tossed several small objects that looked like food packets toward the guards. When they burst, they released a gas that had been developed to ripen fruit quickly in the colony's greenhouses. The modified version caused temporary blindness in Trill physiology. As the guards stumbled and fired wildly, Kang's team moved in with shock prods made from kitchen appliances and mining tools adapted to crack the guards' armor at its weakest points. The third team reached life support and began reconfiguring it according to plans developed by studying captured Trill equipment. They weren't sabotaging it. They were making subtle changes that would slowly affect the crew's alertness and reaction time. Back on the colony, General Moon watched the operation through a communication link they'd established using modified entertainment broadcasting equipment. "The Trill don't understand," he told the Galactic Council observers who had become increasingly interested in human tactics. "They think of ships as fortresses. We see them as resources waiting to be used." On the view screen, more human teams were boarding other Trill vessels using similar tactics, always entering through waste disposal, maintenance hatches, or other overlooked access points. Always carrying tools instead of weapons, always turning the ship's own systems and discarded items against its crew. On the Trill command vessel, the Supreme Commander received alarming reports from throughout his fleet. "Humans have breached defense systems on 7 ships," reported his lieutenant. "They're using our own environment suits, modified somehow to fit their bodies. They're reprogramming our food dispensers to release sedatives. They're converting our communication systems into sonic weapons. The Supreme Commander stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How are they boarding our vessels? Where are they getting weapons? That's just it, sir, the lieutenant replied uncomfortably. They don't seem to be using conventional weapons at all. Reports indicate they're using tools, repurposed equipment, items from our own garbage disposal units. Across the Trill fleet, confusion reigned. Security protocols were designed to detect weapons, not kitchen utensils modified to cut through power conduits. Defense systems looked for explosives, not cleaning chemicals combined to create smokescreens. Communication jammers were calibrated against military equipment, not entertainment devices rewired to broadcast on Trill frequencies. Song's team had fully infiltrated the battleship's computer systems. Using knowledge gained from studying captured Trill tablets, they inserted simple but effective code that caused weapon systems to require triple verification before firing, creating crucial delays. Their technology is impressive, Song commented as she worked, but they designed it for specialists. Every system has just one purpose. They never considered someone might change that purpose. In the ship's cargo hold, other team members discovered crates of Trill supplies. Within minutes, they were breaking down equipment, reassembling components, and creating new tools for the next phase of their operation. The Galactic Council observation vessel recorded everything, their sensors capturing the ingenuity of human adaptation in real time. The observers watched in amazement as humans transformed enemy technology into helpful tools, with minimal resources and no formal training. Note how they don't try to understand the entire system, commented one observer. They identify key components and repurpose those. It's a modular approach to adaptation. As more Trill ships fell to human boarding parties, the Supreme Commander finally ordered a full retreat from human space. The cost was becoming too high, the tactics too unpredictable. Back on the colony, people cheered as the Trill fleet began jumping to faster-than-light speed, leaving their territory. Families embraced team members returning from the boarding, operations marveling at the alien technology they brought back, not as trophies but as resources to be studied and adapted. Kang found a quiet moment to sit alone, staring at the simple wrench he'd carried throughout the mission. It had helped him disable ship systems, crack open control panels, and even served as a makeshift weapon. One tool, many purposes. That's really what they couldn't understand, he said to General Moon when the older man found him there. It's not that we turn anything into a weapon. It's that we never see just one purpose in anything or anyone. Moon nodded, looking around at the colony. Farmers who had become soldiers, homes that had become fortresses, children's toys that had become communication devices. The Trill came expecting to fight warriors, Moon said quietly. Instead, they had to fight humans. It makes all the difference. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the last images from the human-Trill conflict played across the massive viewing screens. Delegates from 17 spacefaring civilizations shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had just witnessed something unprecedented. A technologically inferior species had not only defended against a major power, but had forced that power to retreat. The Supreme Counselor, a tall being with iridescent skin, stood to address the assembly. The question before us is simple yet profound. What shall we do about the humans? The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Some called for containment measures, arguing that any species capable of such rapid adaptation posed a potential threat to galactic stability. Others advocated for immediate alliance, seeing tremendous potential in human creativity. Still others recommended careful study from a safe distance. Admiral Bay of Earth entered the chamber flanked by a small delegation. She walked with quiet confidence, her weathered face showing little emotion despite the whispers that followed her. As Earth's highest-ranking military officer, she had been invited to address the Council's concerns. Though many suspected her, real purpose was to assess the Council's intentions toward humanity. The humans repurposed agricultural equipment into defense systems, argued the Mariki representative, his insectoid limbs gesturing sharply. They turned medical nanites into weapons. Even their children participated, converting toys into communication. Jammers. Such a species cannot be trusted. Bay listened patiently to the accusations, her expression neutral. When finally given permission to speak, she approached the central platform with unhurried steps. Distinguished representatives, she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. I understand your concerns. You've watched humans take everyday objects and transform them into tools of war. You fear what that might mean for the galaxy. She paused, looking around at the alien faces. But you've misunderstood something fundamental about humanity. We don't seek conflict. We simply refuse to accept defeat when threatened. The Gen diplomat, his eye stalks swiveling toward her, clicked his mandibles skeptically. Pretty words, Admiral, but we have seen the evidence. Your kind turns everything into weapons. Bay smiled slightly. May I demonstrate something? After receiving permission, she removed her universal translator, a small device attached to her collar. With practiced fingers, she disassembled it on the podium before the startled council. In less than 30 seconds, she had reconfigured its components and reassembled them in a different configuration. This is now a basic scanning device, she explained, holding it up. The small gadget emitted a soft blue light as it analyzed the air composition in the chamber. It can detect chemical compounds, radiation levels, and biological contaminants. A tool for safety, not harm. She quickly broke it down again and reassembled it in its original form. The same components, the same hands, but a completely different purpose. The chamber remained silent as her point sank in. What you witnessed at Proxima B wasn't humanity's desire for violence, Bay continued. It was our refusal to be limited by an object's intended purpose. That trait helped us survive on Earth long before we reached the stars. An elderly representative from the Teller Confederation spoke up. But this ability to adapt so quickly, to see weapons where others see only tools, it makes you unpredictable. It makes us survivors, Bay corrected gently. Throughout our history, humans faced challenges that should have destroyed us. We had no claws, no armor, no venom. We weren't the strongest or the fastest. What we had was the ability to look at a stick and see a lever, a weapon, a tool, a musical instrument, or a writing implement. We saw possibilities. The Supreme Counselor leaned forward. And what possibilities do you see now, Admiral Bay? What is humanity's intention toward this council and the civilizations it represents? Bay took a moment before answering. When she spoke, her voice carried both conviction and caution. We see potential allies who approach problems differently than we do. We see trade partners with technologies we might never have imagined. We see teachers who can share knowledge accumulated over millions of years. She paused. But we also see the need to establish trust. The Trill attacked without provocation. We defended ourselves with what we had available. That doesn't mean we seek conflict. The council chambers buzzed with quiet conversations as representatives debated among themselves. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the Supreme Counselor called for a vote. The proposal before us is to invite humanity to join the Galactic Council as a probationary member, with new protocols specifically addressing their unique abilities. The vote wasn't unanimous, but the majority prevailed. Humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community, albeit with careful monitoring. As the session ended, Bay was approached by the Mariki representative who had spoken against humans earlier. I voted in your favor, Admiral, he said, his voice softer than before. But I remain concerned. Your ability to weaponize anything is the same ability that lets us turn anything into a solution, Bay interrupted gently. The choice of which direction to take defines us, not the ability itself. She gestured toward a window showing the stars beyond. For every colonist who turned a farming tool into a weapon during the Trill invasion, there were 100 more, back on Earth using the same creativity to solve hunger, disease, and environmental challenges. The difference isn't in the skill, it's in the need that drives it. 6 months later, the first official human delegation established an embassy on the Council homeworld. Their building raised eyebrows among the local population. It had been constructed using unconventional methods and materials that local architects had dismissed as unsuitable. Within a year, Those same construction techniques were being studied and adapted across 17 worlds. Human medical adaptations began improving treatments for species with very different biologies. Human educational approaches, which emphasized creative problem-solving over memorization, were being implemented in schools throughout Council space. Back on Earth, alien technologies were being studied not just for their intended purposes but for the possibilities they presented. A atmospheric regulator, designed for a specific environment, was modified by human engineers to help restore damaged ecosystems. Mariki communication crystals were repurposed to detect early signs of earthquake activity. In the Council chambers, a new saying began to circulate among the representatives. In peace, humans turn anything into a solution. In war, they turn anything into a weapon. The wise prefer them in peace. Admiral Bay, now serving as Earth's permanent ambassador, often smiled when she heard this phrase. The galaxy was beginning to understand what humanity had known since they first picked up stones and sticks, that the true power of humanity wasn't in what tools they possessed, but in how they saw the world around them, not as fixed and limited but as full of possibilities waiting to be discovered. And as ships from Earth ventured further into the galaxy, they carried this unique perspective with them, the ability to look at the universe not just as it was, but as it could be. It wasn't always a comfortable gift for their new allies, but it was proving to be an invaluable one in a cosmos filled with challenges that no one species could solve alone.